Am I the asshole for saying that I don't feel sorry for sister-in-law getting divorced while I'm planning my wedding? Sister-in-law and I never truly got along. The reason is that we have different mindsets on some stuff regarding how we live our lives. And while I'm respectful or indifferent about her life choices, she's always trying to impose her beliefs and choices on me and my fiancé, her brother. My fiancé and I, 26 male and 26 female, have been together for 7 years and we have a very loving relationship. He proposed 6 months ago and I started wedding planning 3 months ago. We have a very loving relationship with great communication and we still go on dates and like to dress up. We join activities and hobbies together and overall our relationship hasn't changed and we haven't stopped loving each other more and more. Sister-in-law on the other hand has a different mindset. She was married and her marriage was the kind of marriage where they brag about how much they hate and can't stand each other. She'd also mock me and my fiancé's relationship the entire time and call our dates, dressing up and our hobbies bullshit. Claimed we do it for attention and don't truly love each other, and also said how she can't wait till we end up hating each other too in the future. She and her husband filed for divorce 2 months ago and I honestly am indifferent about it. I don't feel sad or happy, I just don't care. Yesterday my mother-in-law and father-in-law had joined us for dinner. As I was talking about some wedding stuff, mother-in-law pretty much confronted me and said how can I be so happy and excited to plan a wedding while my sister-in-law is getting divorced. My fiancé tried to intervene but mother-in-law told him to shut up because he's a terrible brother who doesn't support his sister through those hard times. She also said I have no empathy for sister-in-law and I only care about my wedding and my little stupid dates. I told her I indeed don't feel sorry that sister-in-law, the person who bragged about hating her husband and being in a loveless marriage, is getting divorced. She and her husband had it coming. I also won't feel sorry for a person who mocked my happiness and relationship. Mother-in-law said I'm very insensitive for saying this and she expects an apology to her as well as to my sister-in-law for this. She left after that and only told me and my fiancé to call her if we want to apologize and only then. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for causing a scene at my mother-in-law's wedding after I found out that my husband was there against my wishes? My husband's mom and I, female 26, don't get along at all. It was fine at first till our disagreements started to get bigger. Our last disagreement was because of her wanting to sell the family house and give her older son more money than my husband. Mother-in-law told me to stay out of it and my husband said he was fine with it. She ended up putting some distance between us and stopped inviting me to events. Fine, but I told my husband I expect him to stay home with me when I'm uninvited. She got married days ago. It goes without saying that I was not invited. I asked my husband to promise to stay home with me and not go. He got defensive and said that this was his mom's wedding and there was no reason for him not to attend. I refused to speak to him after a big argument about it and he eventually said that he'd stay home with me. However, at the day of the wedding he said he was going to hang out with some friends. I was skeptical so I called his friends and they said they didn't see him. I knew where he was. I felt betrayed and I wanted to catch him red-handed so I got dressed and went to his mom's wedding. He was actually there. I was fuming when I saw him. He saw me and started following me as I was turning and making my way out. I yelled at him calling him a liar and manipulator. He tried to get me to quiet down since people were staring but I lost it on him and said that he betrayed the promise he made me and that his word meant nothing to me. He got defensive saying he really wanted to be there for his mom and at the same time couldn't handle me being upset with him and giving him silence so he hid it from me. I told him to get out of my face and went home. He came back looking angry saying I made a scene at his mom's wedding and humiliated him when I started yelling at him. I refused to argue but his family came at me calling me horrible and controlling and saying that my husband is a saint for still enduring the crappy behavior of mine. I blocked his sister who was constantly arguing saying my husband has free will and should be able to decide where to go and be without my consent. This made him get more annoyed. We haven't talked since then. Am I the asshole for telling my sister that her engagement ring was cheap? I, female 26, have a wife, Katie, female 26. I have a younger sister, Lydia, female 22, who got engaged to her fiancé, Seth, male 24, around a month ago. Seth's family is pretty well off. His parents both work in the business sector and can afford a very lavish lifestyle. Although Seth has a decent job, his parents send him money regularly. He proposed to Lydia with a ring that they both constantly brag about, bragging about how expensive it is. Seth claims the ring is worth about $50,000. Katie is a jeweler and has been one for a long time, so Lydia asked if she could clean and polish the ring as a favor. Katie agreed. She told me later in private that the ring is made of cheap materials and is worth no more than $30. After a long conversation, we decided it would be best if I told Lydia. I talked to Lydia in private and explained to her as gently as possible that Katie had a good look at the ring and that it is definitely not worth the amount of money that Seth said it was. Lydia was shocked. She said Seth must have been scammed by whoever he bought the ring off of. Lydia later talked to Seth. I wasn't there for the conversation, but apparently Seth knew the ring was cheap and was hoping Lydia wouldn't find this out. Lydia ended up calling off the engagement and is currently staying with a friend and not talking to Seth. My parents are furious with me and Katie and are accusing us of sabotaging my sister's relationship, and said we should have minded our own business. They said there's unfair pressure on men to spend a lot of money on rings and that we were being selfish. A lot of our extended family also think we're the villains, so I'm wondering if what we did was the right thing. Edit, Lydia wanted the ring cleaned and polished as she had a photo shoot planned. Lydia isn't mad at me or Katie for telling her. She's just very upset that Seth lied to her. Am I the asshole for asking my guests to pay $10 to come to my wedding? My fiance, 23 male, and I, 23 female, are getting married in less than a month. We are doing a small wedding and only inviting 20 guests. We decided we wanted to have our wedding up in a canyon, but to access this canyon it costs $10, so we're having our guests pay the $10 to enter the canyon. We put this canyon fee on our invitations. My sister called today as she had just received her invite in the mail and was mad about having to pay to attend a wedding. She called me an asshole because I was being a cheapskate and there are thousands of canyons that won't have a fee. But me and my fiance already have our hearts set on this specific canyon and view. As the argument went on, she started to nitpick our whole wedding plan. Having the guests bring their own camping chairs. Not having a real reception, just a small dinner for those who attended, and posting our registry all over social media, but only having 20 people actually be invited. We don't want to spend a lot of money, and so doing it outdoors is one way of doing that. We also just want our close intimate friends and families to be there, so I don't know what's wrong with keeping it small. To those who will ask, it's a canyon fee you have to pay at the base, so it's not like we could just pay the park rangers in advance and just say this should cover it. It's open to the public. So am I the asshole? Update. No, it is not in a national park. It's just a canyon near our hometowns. We talked to the rangers, Forest State Park. I don't know why you call them. They said it was fine as long as we didn't go over 100 people. I didn't realize posting your registry to social media was such a faux pas. Everybody posts everything nowadays online, and many people, who already knew they weren't invited, had asked me about the registry, so I posted it. Yes, we talked to the rangers. We asked them if we could buy passes or slips or give them a list of names ahead of time in order to pay for our guests, but none of those solutions worked. We decided informing our guests that there would be a $10 fee as a heads up would be the best way to go. I guess we should have been more creative, but we already sent out the invites. So there goes half the suggestions. We are taking some of the other ones under advisement. Probably going neath an usher or a bus at the gate. Those were good ideas. When we said small dinner, we were referencing the size of the after party or lack thereof. No reception, not the amount or quality of the food. But thanks again for your judgment. I accept the judgment that I am asshole, but 23 is not that young to be getting married. It wasn't about the money. It was about the logistics, and none of this has any bearing on if my marriage will succeed or fail. You don't know our relationship, so please stop. All our guests, other than our parents and my sister and my fiance's 3 sisters, are outdoors type college friends from the area, so it's not a big deal. P.S. Also, it might just be a cultural thing because 2 people guessed Utah, southern Utah, and we are from right near St. George. Very outdoorsy towns, so maybe it's all just cultural. Am I the asshole for not supporting my best friend's marriage? Hi all. I, 21 female, have been best friends with, let's call her Rose, 22 female, since middle school. She grew up in a very strict and religious household. We've always been on and off friends. She would do something mean, I'd complain, we'd go a while without talking, and then be friends again. I would beg Rose to be a better friend to me. The cycle would repeat. Rose was the type to always be in a relationship and throw herself into it. She never stayed single long. At the end of high school, she began dating our friend. Let's call him Chris, 22 male. I moved across the country for college, while Rose and Chris stayed in our hometown. Rose was more of a homebody. She'd go to school, see Chris, and work. She didn't make many friends, so Chris came everywhere with us. She seemed annoyed every time I wanted to hang out when I was home. It got to the point where I finally said something and she didn't plan on doing anything about it. Junior year of college, I moved home. I found out I was going to be a single mom. Rose was so supportive, even driving me to appointments, buying baby gifts, and taking me to dinner. I think Rose was happy to finally have a friend at home. All seemed well, until out of the blue, Chris texted me to let me know that he and Rose broke up. A month prior, she didn't tell me. She said she didn't want to burden me. About a month later, Rose told me we needed to talk. She told me she had been seeing our old teacher, 37 male. He is a pastor and taught our Bible class. She told me he was originally there to be set up with her younger sister by her parents, but thought Rose was better suited. Her parents agreed. I was in shock. The last time I saw him was when we were little girls. I was openly against this relationship. Rose assured me she was only doing it to make her parents happy, and because he owned a home and had a nice job. I cracked a ton of jokes, and sometimes went too far. But I always made it known that I would support her no matter what. She stopped hanging out with me as much. One weekend I was out and saw Chris, the ex, and he told me he was sorry for always tagging along. But that Rose would always say horrible things about me and make excuses to not hang out. He had been pushing her the whole time to see me, which was why he was always there. He said he was sorry and that I deserved better. I confronted Rose and she apologized and said she would be a better friend to me. Spoiler, she didn't. Now after 9 months, she is engaged and mad at me for not being supportive. I still haven't even met him, aside from him teaching us as kids. Am I the ass? Thanks for watching. Do you think any of the OPs are assholes or not? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.